Hello YouTube, this is Said Mirza. This video is based on key ideas from the excellent work by Sam Garen's titled The Qur'an, A Complete Revelation, and from my upcoming book, Means of Insight, Theology of the Qur'an. All translations are from the Qur'an, A Complete Revelation, which can be downloaded for free using the link below. Today's video is part 2 of a two-part series about Shaitan in the Qur'an. You can watch the first part of this series by clicking the link below. Let's continue on with our investigation of the shaitan using the Quran alone. This evil force attacks man in his eternal struggle to mislead man from the straight path of God. Shaitan is an enemy to man. The shaitan is an enemy to man, and contrary to what Gnostic and Luciferian religions postulate, he is not working to help mankind. The Quran repeatedly states that we are to take him as an enemy. Those who serve Shaitan and take him as an ally are warned of humiliation in this life and the next. We are to serve God using our reason alone. This faculty of man is the only defense by which we can know what is true and good, and what is false and evil. And when they meet those who heed warning, they say, "We believe." But when they are alone with their shaitans, they say, "We are with you. We are but mocking." Chapter 2, verse 14. But the shaitan caused them to fall therefrom, so he expelled them from what they were in. And we said, "Get you down, an enemy to one another, and for you on the earth are place and goods for a time." Chapter 2, verse 36. O you who heed warning, enter into surrender completely, and follow not the footsteps of the shaitan. He is an open enemy to you. Chapter 2, verse 208. And those who spend their wealth to be seen of men, and believe not in God or the last day, and to whom the shaitan is an intimate companion. Evil is he as an intimate companion. Chapter 4, verse 38. Those who heed warning fight for the cause of God, and those who are indifferent to warning fight for the cause of idols. Then fight the allies of the shaitan. The plan of the shaitan is weak. Chapter 4, verse 76. And of the cattle for burden and for skin, eat of what God has provided you, and follow not the footsteps of the shaitan. He is an open enemy to you. Chapter 6, verse 142. The shaitan is an enemy to you, so take him as an enemy. He but calls his party that they might be among the companions of the inferno. Chapter 35, verse 6. Did I not enjoin you, O sons of Adam, that you serve not the shaitan? He is an open enemy to you, but that you serve me. This is a straight path, and he led astray among you a great multitude. Did you then not use reason? Chapter 36, verses 60 to 62. Consuming intoxicants, gambling, and usury is of the devices of the shaitan. Divination and sacrificing to altars is not as prevalent in the modern world as was before. However, drinking alcohol and smoking marijuana are becoming more common and culturally accepted. Similarly, gambling and betting is seeing a rise, of which Las Vegas, commonly known as Sin City, is the Mecca. The Quran warns that they are all works of the shaitan which divert men from the remembrance of God. The capitalistic system is built upon interest and is condemned in the Quran. This is because interest is exploitation of the poor by the rich. The Quran does not allow one to give a loan and collect interest. Only the principal must be repaid, and if the debtor is having difficulty, then it is better to forgive the loan. Such is the beautiful teaching of our Lord. Those who consume usury will not stand save as stands one whom the shaitan has touched, because they say, "Commerce is but the same as usury," when God has made commerce lawful and prohibited usury. And he to whom came the exhortation from his Lord and desisted, he has what is past, and his case is with God. But whoso goes back, these are the companions of the fire, wherein they abide eternally. Chapter 2, verse 275. O you who heed warning, the intoxicant, and games of chance, and altars, and divining arrows, are but abomination among the work of the shaitan, so avoid it, that you might be successful. The shaitan but wishes to cause among you enmity and hatred in the intoxicant and the games of chance, and to divert you from the remembrance of God and from the duty. So will you desist? Chapter 5, verses 90 and 91. The shaitan but wishes to cause among you enmity and hatred in the intoxicant and games of chance. Chapter 5, verse 91. Is it not an evident fact that alcoholism is the main reason for the splitting up of families, violence against women, and divorce? Does not gambling lead to envy and hatred among men? We are told that these things divert from the remembrance of God. Does not endless hours of binge watching shows and listening to music cause us to forget God in the pursuit of fun and distraction? Time is short, and we may die tomorrow. What possible benefit is there in pursuing these pointless activities and shunning our duty to remember God and serve Him alone? The shaitan deceives man. The shaitan deceives and reprieves man. We are tested by God throughout our lives. There is the straight path and there is the easy path. Most men choose to compromise their integrity and morals by choosing the easy path. We are warned by God to not let the shaitan deceive us. We are to always be vigilant and be truthful and just regardless of the consequences. They call besides him save to females, and they call save to a rebellious shaitan. God cursed him, and he said, I will take of thy servants an appointed portion, and I will lead them astray, and I will arouse desires in them, and I will command them that they will cut the ears of cattle, and I will command them, and they will change the creation of God. And whoso takes the shaitan for an ally instead of God, he has suffered clear loss. He promises them, and arouses desires in them, and the shaitan promises them only deception. These, their habitation is hell, and they will find no refuge therefrom. Chapter 4, verses 117 through 121. These verses hold many key insights. The people to whom Muhammad was sent used to serve three female goddesses. They were actually calling out to Shaitan when they were calling out to their female deities. We are to call out to God alone. If we are calling out to anyone else for help besides Him, then we are calling to Shaitan, who is an enemy to us. Shaitan arouses desires in men. An example of how this works is that some men covet fame. Day and night they endeavor to acquire fame, thinking that if they achieve this purpose, they will have the love, respect, and admiration of people. I am sure in your life you wanted something, whether it be a house, a car, or a woman. You made up plans on how to acquire this valuable thing. You thought how your life would be better, or you would be content if you acquired this passion. But once you got it, you realized that you were not satisfied, content, and happy as you had hoped. Then you set your desires on something else which you think will bring you contentment. The cycle continues. The truth is that we are to be content with what we have. We should be grateful to God for the gifts we have received. This is how the shaitan tricks man into lusting after possessions. We are not interested in the possession per se, but derive enjoyment in the pursuit thereof. Made fair for men is the love of lust for women and sons, and heaped up fortunes of gold and silver, and branded horses, and cattle, and tilth. That is the provision of the life of this world, and God, with him is the best of returns. Chapter 3, verse 14. And I will command them, and they will cut the ears of cattle, and I will command them, and they will change the creation of God. Chapter 4, verse 119. In older times, cultic practices of cutting the ears of cattle to mark them as special were practices. We think that we have evolved beyond this savagery. This could not be further from the truth. In today's world, millions of male infants are circumcised in the name of God by Muslims and Jews. This barbarous practice has no basis in the Qur'an. God says that He has perfected His creation. To be clear, religion is a byproduct of shaitan. Religion attributes false and idolatrous practices to God and deceives its adherents into committing acts such as circumcision, veneration of idols, and following that of which we have no knowledge. Another aspect of changing the creation of God is by the introduction of GMO technology in food. GMO, which stands for genetically modified organism, is marketed as a means to improve food so that it is not susceptible to disease and the damaging effects of pesticide. The arrogance of scientists to think they can improve a perfect creation of God is nothing but false pride. Genome editing as a way to change the DNA information of organisms is a frightening example of how, in the name of technology and progress, science being a god now, we are changing the creation of God. This will no doubt lead to disastrous consequences. And the shaitan will say when the matter has been concluded, God promised you the promise of truth, and I promised you, but I failed you. And I had no warrant against you only to call you, but you responded to me. So blame not me, but blame yourselves. I will not answer your cry, and you will not answer mine. I deny your ascribing to me a partnership before the wrongdoers, for them is a painful punishment. Chapter 14, verse 22. O mankind, the promise of God is true. So let not the life of this world deceive you, and let not the deceiver deceive you about God. Chapter 35, verse 5. As I alluded in my video on Adam, the shaitan promised Adam that he would become immortal and gain a dominion that decays not if he ate from the tree. When Adam ate from the tree, he did not become immortal and gain a dominion that decays not. On the contrary, Adam fell from grace into a life of hardship and misery. God also promises man a dominion that decays not, that is Jannah, and an everlasting life. Thus, on the day of judgment, man will see that the promise of Shaitan was false and that he was deceived, whereas the promise of God is true. Those who followed Shaitan will enter the fire, and those who followed God will enter Jannah. Like the example of the Shaitan when he says to men that he should deny, then when he denies, he says, I am innocent of thee. I fear God, the Lord of all mankind. Chapter 59, verse 16. The sky is protected from Shaitan. The shaitans from men and jinn cannot gain information from the heavenly realm. Those practicing the dark arts, fortune tellers, and diviners are similarly unable to gain information of the unseen. And we have set in the sky constellations, and made them fair for the beholders, and kept them from every accursed shaitan, save such as steals the hearing. A clear flame follows him. Chapter 15, verses 16 through 18. We adorn the lower sky with the adornment of the stars, and as protection from every refractory shaitan. They cannot listen in on the exalted assembly, and are pelted from every side, repelled, and they have a perpetual punishment, save he who snatches a fragment. A piercing flame follows him. Chapter 37, verses 6 through 10. And we have adorned the lower sky with lamps, and made them what is thrown at the shaitans, and prepared for them the punishment of the inferno. Chapter 67, verse 5. Serving idols is actually serving the shaitan. Those who serve idols such as Hanuman, Buddha, and Kaaba are actually serving the shaitan. This is because the genesis of these religions is based on jinn or shaitan worship. We are to steer clear of all idols as they are an abomination. And remember thou in the law Ibrahim, he was a man of truth, a prophet, when he said to his father, O my father, why servest thou what hears not, nor sees, nor can anything avail thee? O my father, there has come to me knowledge that has come not to thee, so follow thou me, I will lead thee to an even path. O my father, serve thou not the shaitan is to the Almighty defiant. O my father, I fear lest there afflict thee a punishment from the Almighty, and thou become an ally to the shaitan. Chapter 19, verses 41 to 45. Shaitan and those who serve him will enter hell. The only fitting end that awaits those who serve shaitan is that they will enter the fire. The shaitan will enter it as well due to his defiance of God. Then, by thy Lord, will we gather them and the shaitans, then will we bring them round about hell on bended knee. Chapter 19, verse 68. And when it is said to them, follow what God has sent down, they say, Nay, we follow that upon which we found our fathers, even though the shaitan invites them to the punishment of the inferno. Chapter 31, verse 21. Is this better as a welcoming gift or the tree of Zaqqum? We made it as a means of denial from the wrongdoers. It is a tree that comes forth at the source of hell. Its spates as the heads of the shaitans. They are to eat thereof and fill the bellies therewith. Then on top of it they have a scalding liquid. Then is their return to hell. They found their fathers astray, and they hastened following hard upon them. Chapter 37, verses 62 through 70. The Quran in many places exhorts us to not follow the religion of our ancestors blindly. Most men are born into a religion and die in that religion. Few are those who question their inherited religion using the reason. Those who claim that they are rightly guided due to them following the religion of their ancestors blindly are severely mistaken. We are to seek refuge in God from Shaitan. The Shaitan tempts men, and the believers are commanded by God to seek refuge in him when the temptations of Shaitan arise in our hearts. And say thou, My Lord, I seek refuge in thee from the temptations of the Shaitans, and I seek refuge in thee, my Lord, lest they be present with me. Chapter 23, verses 97 to 98. The Shaitan reprieves man. We have all faced a choice in which we took the path that was easier, even though it was the morally wrong one. This is one way in which the Shaitan reprieves man. He calls us to a path which may seem easier and promise rewards if we turn our back to God's guidance. Naturally, those who take this easy path are reprieved for a while, but the final outcome of their taking this path is only ruin. Those who turn their backs after the guidance has become clear to them, the Shaitan has enticed them and reprieved them, because they said to those who are averse to what God sent down, We will obey you in part of the matter, but God knows their secrets. So how will it be when the angels take them, striking their faces and their backs? Because they followed what angered God and were averse to what pleased them. So he made vain their deeds. Chapter 47, verse 25 to 28. The Quran is not from the Shaitan. The Quran is not such that could be produced by Shaitan or by jinns and men were they to work together to create a scripture the like thereof. This is because the Quran points out the straight and simple path of God. It commands equity, justice, compassion, and humility. Anything which is repugnant and not morally sound is not found in the Quran. It calls men to use the reason and to consider it with care. In contrast, religions require blind obedience and condemn reason. And the shaitans did not bring it down, and it does not behoove them, and they are not able. They are excluded from the hearing. Chapter 26, verses 210 to 212. And it is knowledge of the hour. Doubt not concerning it, but follow me. This is a straight path, and this is not the word of an accursed shaitan. Chapter 43, verse 61. Chapter 81, verse 25. The shaitans descend upon the liars and deceivers. Those who are deceiving others and themselves by lying and cheating are the ones upon whom the shaitans descend. This includes the writers of fiction, such as those found in Hollywood, who produce morally corrupt works to influence the masses. Shall I inform you upon whom the shaitans descend? They descend upon every false deceiver. They give ear, but most of them are liars. And the poets, the misguided, follow them. Hast thou not considered how they wander in every valley, and that they say what they do not? Chapter 26, verses 221 to 226. Secret societies are satanic. The elite come up with various schemes to subjugate men behind closed doors. Similarly, Freemasons have secret societies in which they use secret handshakes and symbolic gestures to identify each other. The degrees in Freemason, 33rd degree being the highest, are set up to hide their true intentions from the initiates. Only those at the top are aware of the real nefarious intentions of their group. Such hierarchical structures exist in all religions. The Quran condemns such practices. Ask yourself, why would someone hold a private meeting if their intention was only to do good? Confidential conversation is but of the shaitan that he might grieve those who heed warning, and he can harm them not at all save by God's leave. And in God let the believers place their trust. Chapter 58, verse 10. This concludes my presentation of who is the shaitan in the Quran. As always, I urge you to read the Quran and ask God for guidance. We are all in need of His help and mercy. May God guide you to His straight path. Peace be upon you.